just one essential vitamin to keep your legs strong in old age, even at 94. The essential vitamin for maintaining healthy legs, even at 94. As we age, muscle deterioration, particularly in the lower limbs, presents a significant challenge. Daily activities such as walking, maintaining an upright position, or climbing stairs can become considerable obstacles. Statistical data shows that fall-related accidents constitute the primary risk factor for injuries in the elderly population. Annually, 1/4 of individuals over 65 years old experiences at least one fall. However, there is an effective preventive solution. Even at the age of 94, a specific nutrient is crucial for maintaining robust, balanced, and resilient lower limbs. Without adequate amounts of this element, muscle degradation progresses more rapidly. Conversely, by maintaining optimal levels, it's possible to preserve autonomy and motor capabilities for an extended period. The crucial nutrient, in-depth analysis. This fundamental element is calciferol, commonly known as vitamin D. Although traditionally associated with bone mineralization, its role in muscular functionality and mobility is equally determinate. Scientific evidence demonstrates a correlation between calciferol insufficiency and muscle weakness, compromised balance, and increased probability of falls, a particularly risky combination in advanced age. A publication in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society noted a 23% reduction in the likelihood of falls among elderly individuals taking calciferol supplements compared to non-users. A further study appearing in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism highlighted how insufficient levels of this nutrient are associated with reduced strength in the lower limbs and decreased walking speed in the geriatric population. When calciferol levels are insufficient, the organism encounters difficulties in calcium assimilation, resulting in progressive weakening of bone and muscle structure. Sarcopenia, the age-related degeneration of muscle mass, affects approximately 50% of those over 80 and can be accelerated by this deficiency. In summary, maintaining physical activity in advanced age, preventing falls, and preserving strength in the lower limbs significantly depend on this nutrient. Prevalence of deficiency in the elderly population. Calciferol deficiency presents a surprisingly high prevalence, particularly among the elderly, as demonstrated by several studies with concerning data. The National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found inadequate levels of this nutrient in over 60% of the geriatric population. The Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism documents twice the frequency of serious falls and fractures in elderly individuals with insufficient calciferol levels. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, the incidence of hip fractures in women over 65 years who take supplements of this element is 22% lower. The geriatric population requires particular attention to adequate intake of this nutrient because, with advancing age, the body's ability to synthesize it through sun exposure diminishes. Signs of possible deficiency. Calciferol contributes to maintaining bone structure, supports immune functionality, and preserves muscular efficiency. However, numerous individuals do not consume sufficient quantities, exposing themselves to potential health problems. Several symptoms may indicate a deficiency. Muscle asthenia represents one of the most evident signals. The persistent sensation of weakness or instability in the lower limbs, particularly during transition to an upright position or while walking, could derive from the insufficiency of this essential nutrient for muscular functionality. This fragility can also determine frequent falls, compromising stability in the presence of poor balance and weakened musculature. The elderly population is particularly vulnerable since physiological calciferol levels decrease with age. Another significant indicator is represented by bone discomfort, especially at the level of the lower limbs, joints, or lumbar region. In the absence of adequate quantities of this nutrient, which promotes calcium absorption, the bone structure can weaken and become more susceptible to pain or discomfort. Additionally, a slowdown in wound healing might signal a deficiency, since this element participates in tissue repair processes, and its insufficiency can increase predisposition to infections. Cramps or spasms in the lower limbs, particularly nocturnal, can also manifest. Since this nutrient contributes to the regulation of muscular contractions, its deficiency can provoke frequent episodes of cramps, interfering with rest and compromising general mobility. In the presence of these symptoms, consulting a healthcare professional is advisable. A simple blood test can determine if calciferol levels are insufficient. In case of deficiency, the physician may suggest supplements, dietary modifications, or increased sun exposure. Strategies to increase levels. Adequate sun exposure. Solar radiation represents one of the most effective methods to increase calciferol levels, stimulating natural cutaneous production. However, with aging, the epidermis's ability to convert solar radiation into this nutrient decreases, making deficiencies more likely. It is recommended to spend 20 to 30 minutes outdoors in direct sun exposure at least 3 to 4 times weekly. The optimal period for calciferol synthesis corresponds to the central hours of the day between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. In regions characterized by prolonged winters or high cloudiness, sun exposure might be insufficient. In these circumstances, specific phototherapy devices can simulate natural solar radiation and promote the production of this nutrient. When adequate sun exposure is difficult, it becomes even more important to resort to dietary sources and supplements to maintain optimal levels. 2. Targeted nutrition. Including calciferol-rich foods in the diet will contribute to increasing its levels and promoting general well-being, although dietary intake might not be sufficient to completely satisfy the organism's requirements. Fatty fish such as salmon, mackerel, sardines, and tuna represent excellent dietary sources of this nutrient. A 100-gram portion of salmon contains approximately 570 international units, satisfying a large part of the daily requirement. Egg yolks also constitute a significant source, with approximately 40 international units per yolk. Numerous dairy products like milk, yogurt, and cheese are enriched with this nutrient, offering a simple method to increase its intake. Mushrooms represent an excellent vegetarian alternative, being the only plant-based food capable of naturally producing calciferol when exposed to solar radiation. Since it can be difficult to obtain adequate quantities exclusively through diet, many elderly individuals might need supplements to satisfy their daily requirement and maintain optimal health. 3. Supplementation. When dietary intake and sun exposure are inadequate, calciferol supplements often represent the most reliable method for the geriatric population to maintain healthy levels. The recommended daily dosage varies based on age. Adults between 50 and 70 years should take 600 international units daily, while for those over 70, 800 to 2,000 international units are advised. Cholecalciferol, D3, is more effective and better assimilated by the organism compared to ergocalciferol, D2, thus constituting the preferable supplementation. Being fat-soluble, this nutrient should be taken during a meal containing healthy fats to improve its absorption. Before beginning any supplementation, it is fundamental to consult a healthcare professional to determine the appropriate dosage based on specific individual needs. 4th, association with magnesium. A frequently overlooked aspect, The organism needs magnesium to activate calciferol. Regardless of the quantity consumed through food, supplementation, or cutaneous synthesis, without adequate magnesium reserves, absorption and utilization will be compromised. To favor calciferol activation, it is advisable to consume magnesium-rich foods. Among the main sources are whole grains like brown rice and oats, green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale, and nuts and seeds like almonds and pumpkin seeds. For those who encounter difficulties in achieving adequate intake exclusively through diet, a magnesium supplement may be useful. The association between magnesium and calciferol can improve bone health, muscle strength, and general mobility. Time frames for observing results. In case of initially low levels, some time might be necessary to reach optimal values and observe evident changes. Here's what to expect. After 2 weeks, reduction in muscle cramps, energy increase. After 1 month, greater strength in the lower limbs, improved balance. After 3 months, increased bone density, reduced risk of falls. Some research indicates that elderly individuals who regularly take calciferol for 3 to 6 months report a 31% reduction in falls, a 35% increase in muscle strength, and a 40% decrease in the incidence of fractures. Consistency represents a determining factor. Regular intake of this nutrient will contribute to maintaining robust lower limbs in the years to come. Prioritizing calciferol intake is fundamental to preserve autonomy, prevent falls, and maintain mobility, considering that numerous elderly individuals do not receive sufficient quantities. Practical recommendations. Spend 20 to 30 minutes in the sun several times weekly. Consume calciferol-rich foods, such as dairy products, eggs, and fatty fish. Take 800 to 2,000 international units of high-quality cholecalciferol daily. Associate with magnesium to improve absorption. Periodically monitor blood levels. Are you taking adequate amounts of this essential nutrient? Share your experience. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any content, and thanks for watching this video.